Life isn't fair. Justice is blind and dysfunctional. And some cops aren't smart and dedicated like on television. This is who killed Theresa. So this is from an email I received in September 2021. I contacted the Sûreté du Québec to say that my father had confessed to having committed murder in the late 70s and early 80s before dying. The murder of Carol Fecteau and another that they would have abducted at a convenience store in Sherbrooke. The police seem to be turning their backs. If you want to talk about it with me, you can call me, because I really don't trust the SQ, and I don't know other people I can talk to. Thank you. It's not infrequent that I receive this kind of email with someone accusing a dead relative of all sorts of bad things that happened in the late 70s in Quebec. Usually the relative had a history of family abuse, so there's this urge to tag a catalog of nasty transgressions on the abuser. This time was different. And I've had 9 months now to fully digest it, vet this story and fill in the pieces. And so in December 2021, I found myself in Boucherville at the offices of the Sûreté de Québec in the company of Tracy Wing, who you know. She heads up the sister podcast, Québec, and she agreed to come along with me to bear witness. And I asked the police if there were any developments in my sister's case, any new suspects. To my surprise, because they usually always respond, there's nothing new. But this time, they answered that there were 2 new suspects, brothers. And they were good leads. But they couldn't tell me anything further, that the matter had to stay confidential. To which I replied, I also have 2 suspects who are brothers. So how about this? How about I tell you a story and we'll see if our suspects match. Absolutely true. I'm not embellishing at all. That's exactly how it went down. So this is the confession. In 2017, Gerald Lachance was dying of cancer. He had just a few weeks to live. And there was something not letting him go, something preventing him from dying. So over coffee and cigarettes with one of his children, we'll call him Alex, his gaze fixed in front of them as though he was watching the stages of this grisly event, he confessed the following. When Gerald was about 19, which places this event in 1978, he was out driving with his older brother, Regis, and another man. Gerald was sitting in the back, Regis was in the passenger seat, and the third person was driving the car. It was in the evening, and they picked up a hitchhiker in Lennoxville. Gerald thought he and the girl were about the same age, so also 19. The girl got in the car and sat in the back with Gerald. Gerald began to kiss her, and from the passenger seat, Regis reached back and he began to stroke her thighs. I'm guessing there was a whole lot more going on than kissing and fondling, but you get the picture. I'm just going to leave it there. Regis asked the driver to stop the car. He then dragged the girl with him. Some time passed. Gerald got out of the car to see what was going on. He says he was going to help the girl. Gerald went down in a field and found Regis holding the girl's head down in water. Gerald is miming this gesture of Regis holding her down in the water by the back of her neck. Regis yelled at Gerald to get back in the car. The girl didn't move anymore and appeared to be dead. Deathbed confessions are tricky business. There's no one who can corroborate exactly what happened. They're kind of a tool of last resort when a cold case is over 4 decades old, but they're a tool of value. Very often these cases get cracked with the passing of a generation, with the offspring of the players in the crime coming forward and doing the right thing. In addition to this possibly being the truth, there are a number of other avenues here. Gerald and or Alex were lying. Gerald and or Alex believed their lie. Or Gerald and or Alex are telling the truth, but they're conflating events. And despite all those other avenues, I am inclined to think that that story is true for a couple of reasons. Number one, the account is not overly detailed. Too often these circumstances, someone will throw something in, right? Like an additional bonus, like, and the girl had long, wavy, curly hair, blah, blah, blah. They'll give like an exact description that comes right off the missing persons sheet, something like that. Or a description of the clothing that Theresa was wearing. This is obviously something that comes from news or police reports. There's none of those headline grabbing specifics. The account is general, but it's enough. It's just enough. The second reason I'm inclined to believe Alex is that they have given this account, by my math, no less than 3 times. Once to me, once in person to my associate in Sherbrooke, which was taped. It's in French, but I've listened to the tape. And then they've also, once on camera, they've given this story to the Sûreté de Quebec, and probably a fourth time, because I know La Presse, the French newspaper, has talked to Alex, and they also were struck by this one fact. That what we all find really interesting in the account is the consistency. There's no embellishment from Alex. There's no sense to make the story more detailed or more interesting each time that in each iteration that they recount it. It remains consistent and the same. So it goes without saying that when I finished telling all of this to current cold case investigators with the SQ, they're a little surprised. And they confirmed that these were the suspects they were investigating. And that they believed that Alex's account her story was genuine. I'll also add that none of us, not even Alex, believed that it was just kissing, and that Gerald more than likely played a larger part in the sexual assault and the murder. and was using Regis as a scapegoat. Alex stated that the Lennoxville victim would, because he was 19, would have been one of Gerald's first kills, and it marked him. Gerald once confided to Alex that he loved to strangle. Gerald often would simulate strangling Alex when they were a young child. Also, Alex did not strike me as a web sleuther. She did not have any historical knowledge of local crime, had not read the Jean-Pierre Rancourt book. In fact, no one, I'll say no one had read it or were aware of it. Not the Quebec police. The Sûreté de Quebec were not aware of it. The Sherbrooke police, who I've also spoken to, were not aware of it. Local media, no one was really aware of it and had put two and two together, that there was this confession and then there was a book that backed it up by one of the most prominent criminal lawyers in the history of the province. Go figure. And Alex barely knew who I was. It was not like that, and so she was only aware of these things, not through true crime or anything, but through personal knowledge, through family experience. And there were a series of emails, and I'll just read you an excerpt from a second email I received in September 2021, so 9 months ago. I also told the police that Regis Lachance had participated in the murder of Gerald with Monsieur Laplante, and that Regis had denounced Laplante to be able to cover himself. My father admitted that Mr. Laplante was behind bars because of him and his brother. And Regis Lachance was also a police informer and worked for the police to give them information on the drug deals that were happening around Sherbrooke. I'm afraid the cops don't want me to dig up an old story that has been buried, but I'd like the truth to come out, that they left the woman killer loose and unguarded just because they were an informer for the police. My father was called Gerald Lachance. He was Regis Lachance's little brother and committed a lot of crimes with him. Sorry to bother you, but I'm afraid I'm telling the police stories they don't want to hear. You're fucking right, they don't want to hear them. Everything in that email is what we've been talking about for the last 6 months. And when she wrote it, I knew it. And I was like, well, she knows all of these things from family history, but I know them from a different angle. So I'm gonna say what I know. And subsequently she was blown away. She was kind of like, oh, thank you, because I thought I was going crazy about Mr. Laplante and a cover-up and a police informer. Seemed very, very far-fetched. I said, oh no, you're not going crazy. You're being gaslit. That's and I know the feeling. One of the things that's striking in Gerald Lachance's account of this Lennoxville abduction is it's the remarkable similarity to Jean Charland's account of Manon Bergeron's death. If you recall, according to Charland, Fernand Laplante dragged her out of the vehicle, the exact words. And here we have Regis Lachance dragging a girl out of a vehicle. So in the case of Manon Bergeron, I don't think Jean Charland was referring to Fernand Laplante at all. I think he was talking about Regis Lachance in that testimony. Both Gerald and Regis Lachance are dead. Gerald died in 2017 and Regis died in 2006. Regrettable, but still, if you look at the dates, well after the Who Killed Theresa series started in 2002. Something could have been done. Part of the focus here, because they were deceased, became who was the driver of this vehicle. Alex stated that they did not think that the driver was another brother, Jean-Claude Lachance, who was also dead, because their father would have mentioned it, Alex said. And it's interesting that they chose Jean-Claude. Why Jean-Claude? Between Gerald and Regis, they had at least 7 other brothers. So why this brother in particular? We'll come back to that. Was the driver Jean Charland? Jean Charland had a history of being a driver. 1 week later, he would be driving Regis's sister's car during the Aloha motel arson incident. And remember, this car was impounded by the police. Did the Sûreté du Québec find Theresa's clothing inside? Right? One shudders at the potentially missed opportunities. Charland said he was the driver for the Grimard and Bergeron murders. He also stated that he would have been the driver for the Ayers Cliff heist before their gang got scared and they canceled the job. So Jean Charland was a driver. Was the driver Luc Gregoire? In my mind, this is the least probable scenario. Though Gregoire lived in the King and Wellington corridor, though he was a serial rapist in the era, there's nothing so far to link Luc Gregoire with any of the other crews we've been discussing. Not the Grimard gang, the Lachance brothers. So for now, Luc Gregoire remains a bit of an outlier. So if the driver was not Gregoire, or Charland for that matter, remember that they too are also deceased. Was it someone else? Was it someone who's still alive? That appeared to be the Sûreté du Québec's focus when I met with them in December 2021. Let me tell you a little bit about the Lachance family. There's a story the Lachance brothers used to tell around the dining room table that would bring the house down. One day, Regis and Gerald were arrested for smuggling. Police found the trunk of their car filled with stolen cigarettes. Regis produced a small card from his wallet and he showed it to the police. They were let go immediately. And the Lachance brothers fell over in fits of hysteria at this story. According to Alex, their father was a collector for the Gitans and later the Hells Angels, and Regis also would have been affiliated with motorcycle clubs. Gerald never worked an honest day in his life. All his money came sous la table, as they said. They would take contracts for anything: thefts, arsons, murder. They would run drugs. It was common for Regis to get hired by the owner of some small business, say, to steal the safe from the store. The business owner then would claim double on the contents for insurance purposes. Regis would often ditch the safes along roadsides. It's worth mentioning here that in addition to Theresa's red wallet, that McDonald Road farmer also once found an old safe abandoned along the gravel road next to his apple orchard. In 1968, Regis Lachance made the papers for a house fire that left his family homeless. Regis appealed to the local Red Cross and Salvation Army for food and clothing, claiming he'd lost everything, even the pants off the bedpost, and that nothing was insured. I doubt it. Accidents appeared to follow Regis and his family. His then wife had recently been injured in a car accident. One of his sisters died in a railway accident. Many of his children died under mysterious circumstances. Alex said that with his first wife, Francine Corbin, and there were many wives, Regis set the house on fire for insurance purposes and, quote, let the children burn. Then there was this nasty bit of business from 1971 where his 4-month-old child was accidentally asphyxiated during another house fire. And I've posted that article on the website theresaallore.com, TheresaAllore.com. According to Alex, the Lachance brothers had no respect for women. Big surprise. And treated them like sex slaves. There was a lot of incest in the family. Even the grandfather got in the act and sexually abused the children. Let's do some recap here. Regis Lachance and Fernand Laplante may have murdered Carole Fecteau, perhaps with the assistance of Laplante's soon-to-be wife, Claire Dussault, who might have lured Fecteau away from her apartment to Wellington Street. This is consistent with Jean-Pierre Rancourt's belief that Laplante had a hand in Fecteau's murder, and it's what Alex said in her initial emails. Regis Laplante may also have been involved in the Grimard-Bergeron murders, but not with Laplante. Laplante stands in as a surrogate for Regis Lachance in all of Jean Charland's testimony. Where Charland is saying Laplante, he is really talking about Lachance. Regis Lachance is the blonde, tattooed man picked up by William Pettigrew in his taxi and taken to Belvedere and Short, where he lived. But remember, there's also the possibility of 3 or 4 assailants in the Grimard-Bergeron murders. So possibly Gerald or Jean-Claude are also there. In the late 1970s, Gerald Lachance was also blonde and tattooed, so perhaps he is the other man in the taxi with Jean Charland. Maybe Raymond Grimard is shot in the alleys behind Wellington Street, as Charland bragged, but in this case 2 shooters because there were 9 shots, and then taken away in a car to the Astbury Road site. And perhaps Manon Bergeron is alive and isn't murdered until her arrival at Astbury Road. Had you checked the alley behind the Moulin Rouge right up to fairly recently, you might have found the bullet holes in the brick wall where Grimard was shot, but they tore the place down a couple of years ago. This then leaves us with the one other murder possibly involving Regis Lachance, the Lennoxville abduction. If this was, in fact, Theresa Allore, and the body was left in the culvert along Chemin de la Station in Compton, one wonders why this spot was chosen. Well, adjacent to that culvert where Theresa was found is a cornfield belonging to the Gagnon family. The Gagnon farm has been a part of the Compton landscape for at least half a century. Just as Fernand Laplante had worked as a farm laborer on the land where Carole Fecteau's body was discovered, it's believed he had also worked as a laborer at the Gagnon farm. And again, if you go to the website, this is all on the map we created. Now, Fernand Laplante was in jail at the time of Theresa's disappearance. Regis Lachance and Jean Charland clearly were not. But because Laplante was a criminal associate of Regis Lachance and may have participated with him in the Carole Fecteau murder, it is thought that Regis chose the Gagnon farm site because he was familiar with it through his association with Fernand Laplante. So that's 4 murders possibly associated with Regis Lachance: Fecteau, Grimard, Bergeron, and Allore. Or is it 5? Alex said that their father, Gerald Lachance, confessed to one other murder of a girl they, quote, abducted at a convenience store in Sherbrooke. Who could this be, I wonder? Well, the only girl from Sherbrooke last seen at a convenience store that I know of is Louise Cameron, right? She's last seen at that Provisoire. When Alex was pressed on Gerald's exact words, she stated that Gerald said they murdered the girl and, quote, buried her in the woods. And then when asked as to what exactly Gerald meant by the word buried, did he mean literally buried or did he mean hid, that she was hidden in the woods? Alex stated that they did not know. Louise Cameron was not buried in the woods off Chemin Guiers, but she was definitely hid. This leaves the question of what to do with Richard Roy, the jilted boyfriend thought to have murdered Cameron. Perhaps the Sûreté de Quebec are wrong in their suspicions, and I can confirm that yes, this is the leading theory today of the SQ. Perhaps it was one more kill on the rolls of Regis Lachance. Or perhaps Richard Roy hired Regis Lachance to murder his former girlfriend. The going rate for a contract killing in that era was about $10,000, even cheaper if you were a woman. So let's say Cameron was offed for $3,000. From what I now know about the Lachance brothers, they would have done anything for a quick score, and they would have done it with immunity from law enforcement. One of the things Alex asked of me was to check Regis Lachance's fingerprints against any prints that may have been left on the back of Theresa's neck. I'm not sure that this kind of skin-to-skin markings that can even be forensically detected. But apart from that, it assumes an investigative diligence on the part of the Quebec police that I've never experienced in my life. Even if that information existed, you would have to overcome the mountain of other assumptions. That they kept the prints, that they had a set of Regis Lachance's prints on file, that they even had the investigative will to do such a test. Nevertheless, this was the dominant image Gerald Lachance could not shake, of his older brother holding the young girl's head down in the water by the scruff of the neck. If it is true that we see more shades of green because of our primal fear of predators in the wild, then I now know why I have such a strong visual memory of that color. Green is the color of my sister's racing bike. It's the image I most strongly associate with my brief time in Sherbrooke after she went missing. The purple night sky and the green forest. It's practically my only memory from those awful days. It's the color when I first learned that she had been found. My grandfather's green shirt as he sat in his living room weeping, the green lamp on the coffee table. But it's not the color comfort. It's the impression of presentiment, panic, and terror. This is who killed Theresa. You know, there's a lot of things that I could say here, and I've been thinking about it. I'm just going to say one thing. I think people's noses are getting a little bent out of joint for some of the things I'm saying. I mean, who is this guy, making accusations about our town, about the people, about the police, about the lack of accountability from the media, the coroner's office, the justice system, the scholastic institutions. Where is it going to end? And to that I say, when it was just a matter of police incompetence, that's one thing. But when we move into the realm of my sister died because police had other better priorities to attend to. The not risking the revealing of a police informant. So my sister Theresa is sacrificed. That moves into a whole other realm of not incompetence, but corruption. And if you think for a minute that I'm going to stand by idle and let my sister's murder just lie on the table unaccounted for, you have made a bad assumption there, that you don't think that I would do anything to make sure there's a proper reckoning. If you like the podcast, please follow us on social media. Go to the website, theresaallore.com, TheresaAllore.com, where you can pick us up on social media there, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Substack, and you can follow along there. As I said, there's also for today's episode, most importantly, there are photos of Gerald and Regis Lachance, and if you were a victim of a crime in that era, you should seriously go and check out those photos. And if they ring a bell, you should contact me or the Sûreté de Québec and ring their bell. That's all for today. We're not done yet. That's not it. That's not the end. I got 2 more shots at this. And it's not just tying up the loose ends, I assure you. I assure you I'm not done. You wait until next time. Oh boy. This has been Who Killed Theresa? I'm your host, John Allore. Have yourselves a great day.